Hey everybody, welcome to the show. We're back, and this time we've got a cryptid I didn't even really know about until I was listening to Mark Eddy's show with Barbara DeLong, and they had Ryan Fusco on there, and he was talking about the Owlman sightings, and I'd actually never heard of this cryptid before, and I was pretty interested, so I was like, reached out to him. He was excited to come on. So basically, the Owlman is one of those. It's more on the obscure and lesser known of the cryptids, but the sightings have been made from everywhere from a village in Cornwall, UK, to California and to Oklahoma, where Ryan has done some investigations. And it's even known to the Seminole Nation as the Stikini. So this is something that's going to be pretty cool. We're going to sit back. We're going to learn a little bit about the Owlman. Welcome to the Three Beards podcast. My name's Craig, along with Austin and Chris.
Passed to a new generation of Americans born in this century.
Let me out.
I'm afraid that is white.
Then live to send the innocent to their death? Is this justice and honor in Massachusetts colony?
All right, and Chris, we are back. Another exciting one. Once again, update. Austin's still at fire school, so it's still us two holding up the fort. So, hey, so other than that, it's exciting times. Like I said, everybody check out Outer Realms Bathworks. Tanya Medea had made our signature blend. I know that is incredibly blurry. That is really hard for everybody to see. There it is. Look at it. Look at that. Wow, look at that focus. All right, it's a really good blend. I really like it. It's one of those. Tanya's looking at possibly making a little thicker one here for Chris. You know, so I suggested castor oil, motor oil, just mix it with that. So it would really stick in there. But yeah, we'll see. So check them out. Outer Realms Bathworks. Tanya Medea makes that. And so that helps support us and supports them as well. So we really appreciate that. And so at this time, let's invite Ryan to the show. How are you, sir?
Good. How about you guys?
Good.
Wonderful.
So Owlman, this is one, like I said there in the beginning. It was, to me, the only one, especially when you do the research, the first thing you do when you type in Owlman in Google, you get the DC Comics.
Yep.
That's the first result. And so I was like, I looked at it and I was scanning down and then I found it. And then as I started looking into it, I mean, one of the terms that popped out and that really intrigued me, it's also sometimes referred to as the Death Raptor.
Yep.
And
I've seen it.
I love that.
Yeah, a lot of people like to confuse it with one of those eagle owls, if you know what I'm talking about. Those real owls. I mean, those things get huge, but there's no way they can get. I mean, I've never seen a photo of them get over 5 feet tall like these sightings are. So.
Oh yeah, but and we'll get to that a little bit later on, like when you're talking about some of your sightings. But when we have had some of these people with cryptids on, when you do these investigations, you come across these people that you're talking to, and they live out in the country. They live out in the woods. They know what an owl looks like. They know what a barn owl looks like. They know what these great horned owls look like. So when they say, I don't know what the hell that was, I laugh when somebody's like, well, you probably saw a great horned owl. They see them daily. They know what they look like.
Exactly. Yeah, especially this guy here. I mean, he thought it was a hang glider at first. I mean, and to get it confused with a hang glider is pretty big,
Yeah, that's massive. Didn't you say, because this was the one with Mark Eddy, if I remember like through the notes, didn't you say that his claim was almost was, maybe I misunderstood, but like 18 feet wide.
Yeah, the wingspan was 18 feet wide. Yeah, and yeah, it's huge, and it correlates with the body being over 5 feet tall. So that would work with at least getting it off the ground for sure. And it also had bottom wings coming out the backside of it as well. So
That's great. That's great. And then did there also some of the descriptions too? I know they kind of, I want to say in the movie that they did a movie about the Owlman too. They had one where it's kind of a humanoid standing there with an owl head, and then they've got these giant claws for hands. But I think out of all the descriptions, I think they got the claws part right on that movie poster, because that's kind of what everybody described. They weren't like just like your normal things. I mean, these were like large, oversized talons.
exactly, yeah, pretty large talons. The witness described them being pretty large. He said there was at least 3 of them. They were golden in color. So yeah, you're exactly right. And that I know the movie you're talking about. They did get that description correct.
Yeah, and that's if I can bring up a picture, I'll show people too. As I'm looking at it here, and so where did you start this journey? I mean, when you found out about this, because you're based in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And so when you first found out about this, what was your initial thought when you started hearing about these sightings?
Well, I thought to myself, I mean, could this really be this big? And then, I did what you did. I looked up a couple other sightings. The first one's a pop-up word, DC Comics. And then if you scroll down, you'll see Owlman sightings from England. They start off in Cornwall, England, and on April 17th, I think 1976, around there. 2 females were sighted, one in a churchyard. And then from there, it was seen again in a churchyard. But, I did my research from there. Then finally, when I contacted the witness and got his firsthand account of it, I was pretty blown away by what he said. It wasn't anything regular, or you can get confused with anything else, to be honest with you.
Wow, that's crazy.
And there's that one for everybody that's watching. You can see this. Here's this guy. It looks like a Victorian style suit, but it's just with an owl head and gigantic talons.
Yeah. Yeah, the head is actually, it's funny, the head actually matches the witness's drawing of it, to be honest with you. At least here in Pennsylvania, it does.
Now, when was the first sighting there in Pennsylvania?
The first one that I encountered here, it was I believe this was a couple years ago. So I actually got to interview the guy about a year and a half after his initial sighting. So I'd say back in about 2016, I believe, was his first encounter. I believe that's the correct date. But he had 2 sightings actually. His first one, he was leaving his house, coming down the main road, and something big, he said, swooped over his car. He said the arm length on it was huge. He said it had feathers. He couldn't tell what it was. And then finally, his second sighting, you guys know the most about, where him and his buddy were composing music in his garage, and he saw this thing coming in. Like I said, he gives an account of it. Basically, he thought it was a hang glider coming in, and until it turned its head, and he realized, wait, that's not a hang glider. Sure enough, it turned its head right at him, and the guy was playing a piano at the time. So it seemed like the owl was, I guess the focus on the music, I guess, is how he described it. But a couple of encounters during the night would lead me to believe that this guy had a lot of cats on his property as well. And basically, he described to me that he ended up missing 3 cats. And the one, he said it was the nicest cat he had. He ended up hearing these, I guess, he described it bone on metal, basically on the top of a pump house next to his house. And I mean, that's how the initial sighting went after the second sighting. It was that night that he heard that sound, and then his cats came up missing there in his yard.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, and that was one, because that makes sense too, especially if you have a predator like that. It's gonna go for small game, cats, raccoons, small deer. It's gonna do those. So that was one of you talked about your description. So this was the gentleman that when you went to Oklahoma. This is the one that was, if I'm recalling everything correctly, this is the one where he had a friend who was a musician in there playing piano.
No, this isn't actually. That one there is in Pets. All right, so you're getting them mixed up. It's all good.
I know that.
It's actually the same one I was just talking about.
Okay, so that was the one. Okay.
Fayette County, up in Pennsylvania, which is about 45-minute drive from me. Yeah. So to give a little bit more info on it, the description of it was, he said it was about a little bit over 5 feet tall. I mean, I'm 5'7", so anything over 5 feet tall, I mean, that's, you're talking pretty big, at that point. Had a golden chest. And just like that photo you showed, his face looked almost identical to that, especially in the drawing. I think I sent you guys the drawing, but
yeah, and I think I've got that.
Yeah, he said the wingspan is what got him. He said the wingspan was so wide that after it came in closer, that's what finally. And I guess when it turned its head, that's when he realized it was a giant owl. But yeah, the descriptions match up with a couple other sightings that I have that. Basically, the other one, it also has to do with music, and she describes almost the identical thing. The only other description, and also too, there's music playing in that one. There was a window open, there was a piano playing as well, and they actually saw this flying humanoid come into the side, flying past the side of the house. But the third one I have, it was a late party. It was on a Sunday. The party had died down around 6-7 o'clock at night, and they were cleaning up, and they said they saw, but all three of them had a barn though, on the location. But I don't think that the barn has anything to do with the sightings, to be honest with you. But and the third one I have, it's actually a dark color, and it actually had ears that were sticking up out of it, like the ones you would see in London.
Okay,
it sounds like to me the music plays a factor in him coming. Did the guy that we were referring to that looks like that he said it looked like a hand glider? Did he like try to pursue it any, or did it just went by him so fast he didn't really think to try to follow it or any other?
No, that's actually the same guy we're talking about in Fayette County. He said it came in I'd say about 30 yards from him, which I mean it's kind of close, to be honest with you. I mean, especially to see something that big, but what it did was it came down by the where the music was coming out of it. It swooped over it, made a circle, and then headed off to the east, and that was the end of it. But yeah, the other two, or the second sighting I was talking about, where the piano was playing inside the house, that swooped around the house, went back to where the piano was, touched down on the ground. It got back up and then took off, but. Yeah, the other one didn't touch down on the ground at all, but I mean, they both had a piano, both had music going, so there has to be something with their frequency or some, the sound that's drawing them near.
Yeah, and now the ones that you investigated in Oklahoma, did they have the same scenario where they were missing small animals?
So, my Oklahoma stuff is more along the lines of UFO stuff. But the two other investigations I had, they weren't actually that far west. They actually stayed on the lines of basically Michigan and over to us, basically.
Okay, so that was probably where I got confused. So most of the stuff like the Mothman seems to be up north.
Yeah,
you're Mothman, and then the Owlman seems. So these seem to be something that seems to be a northern one. So like I said, that was a separate one. So your Oklahoma ones were more of the UFO paranormal.
Yeah,
side.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And actually, the Fayette County one, the Owlman, that's actually that you bring that up, like the Mothman. That's actually the London's. They call that London's version of the Mothman is the Owlman. But yeah, down south where Pleasant, where Point Pleasant is, where they had the Mothman sightings. I mean, it's not too far from where this initial sighting was. So, I could see people definitely getting each other confused for, who's who down there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so one of the And that was, just as we were going through and I was listening to these things, just what other factors, especially when it comes to the Owlman, was there seeming to be like a correlation between all of the ones? I mean, did it happen to do certain techniques like looking through a window? Was there other things that you noticed that through doing these, talking to other people, you were able to start seeing these overlaps that most people by themselves wouldn't have thought anything of it?
Yeah, I mean, they all had red eye shine. They all basically swooped around the area, except for the second one I had mentioned. It actually touched down on the ground. That's the only one that actually touched down. But like I said, the music has something to do with that. But also the first one and the second one, they both had the same exact identical sighting. I mean, they word for word. And then also too in Fayette County, when I did my further research on it, I found out that other people had seen this humanoid as well, and they described it basically the same way. But also at nighttime, the people that saw this humanoid at night described it word for word as they thought it was a bat, actually. So it definitely, whoever is seeing it, it's definitely carrying the same traits, I believe, except for the one that I got up north. That was the third one I had mentioned, where the people had just had the party, and that's the only one I've heard of where it was a actual, a darker color that had ears coming off of its head.
And here's kind of a thought too, is like, do you think that's a different species, or do you think a different like subset, or do you think this is some like how some birds, like down here we have the ibis, where when they're young they're dark, and as they get older they the feathers change colors to lighter. So do you think this could be a juvenile going in, or do you think this is a whole different one entirely?
That's actually a good question. I actually thought about that myself. But I've come to the terms that they're actually just different types, because when the couple that were basically cleaning up after the party, their description was way different from the other two, and they both said, all three of them, you know what, the height was almost equal in all three of them, and they were between 5'6" and 5'7", and that's as tall as me, so.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but I believe they're different species for sure.
One of the listeners, she posted a question. Other than the startle factor, did that witness pick up a vibe of malicious or not? I mean, because that was one of the things too. I was curious if any of these sightings, did they ever feel like they were the target, or were they just being observed?
Honestly, I got out of all three of them, I believe that it was on its own program. To be honest with you, I thought that it was basically, for the first two, I think it was wondering where the sound was coming, where the music was coming from, and it found out where it was both times. And then for the third one, I guess there was they just had a party, so I'm guessing there was music playing at some point, because they were cleaning up after. It was shortly just after everyone started leaving. So,
and then Laura's thing is the Owlman similar to I'm going to butcher this. I think it's La Bruya legends. What these are is they're witches, and that's the Seminole Nation. That's their thing about the Stikini. They view that as kind of almost like the skinwalker.
Yep. Yeah.
And so have you found anything so far through your research that has shown that has led you to believe that this is something like a shape-shifting type thing, that it could take different forms?
No. And the reason for that is, let's take the first one that happened in Fayette County. So the witness, for the most part, very well-grounded individual, had a ton of solar panels on his farm. Anyways, he wanted to find out what this was. Okay, so he went as far as to go get a job at a mushroom farm that was about, I don't know, 8 miles from him, 6 miles from there. I actually checked the place out myself. Anyways, I tell you that to tell you this: he worked there. He got a great piece of information off that, and it was basically, after work they'd set these cameras up their four-wheelers were getting stolen. And so they put cameras up. They caught these young kids stealing it. They all had rifles. And when the cops caught them, they said, "Why are you doing this?" He said, "Because there's something in that cave, and it's a giant bat, and it's got big red eyes, and we've seen it fly out of there several times." And so I don't think that it's shape-shifting into anything else unless somehow, some way at nighttime, it's looking like a bat. And I believe it's looking like that because of the darkness and the red eyes, and people can't really see it too well. So.
Yeah.
So
And
do-
that was, oh, go ahead, Chris.
So with that said, do you think there would be somebody confirming it as a big giant bat sighting, or that's just an assumption that you're coming up because I don't hear any cryptid of a bat. People seeing it, they'd be like, "Well, that's a giant bat." So
I've heard of a couple bat squatch sightings, as they call them.
Yeah, I know. I love those as the bat squatch.
But no, I think it's I just think they're missing it at nighttime for honestly. And to me, I think about it. I go over this several times in my head. I think it's gotta, it must look like a bat at nighttime. I mean, and to see something that big with red eyes, it's probably scared the crap out of you. And there's actually another sighting that goes with the kids in the cave. A mother and son were actually passing a nearby road of the witness, and they witnessed a giant bat-like creature eating something on the side of the road. And she said it was definitely over 5 feet tall. So that definitely correlates with his sighting, because this happened about 3 weeks after his main sighting. So.
Yeah, and that was just so some of the sightings. You talked about this a little bit. I know Mark Eddy brought this up on that show. Was the similarity between the cave and the Van Meter visitor? I don't know if you've known much about that. The Van Meter monster.
I knew a little bit about the Van Meter. That's about
and
it.
That's do you think that these are a subterranean species, something like that this is actually kind of like a bat, where they live in a cave, they do stuff like this? Or do you think that this just happened to be where it was, and that's where everybody kind of focused on?
I believe that it definitely lives around the area. So this is another thing. After the sighting, I took it upon myself to go snoop out the area, and there was a bunch
I love the story.
a bunch of do not enter signs, and I decided to walk through it, and
allegedly.
Yeah. And there's an actual cave. There's a cave entrance, and I didn't get to get
stepped over the no trespassing sign.
Yeah, pretty much. I definitely did. So, but as I got over the fence, I noticed first of all there was a bunch of jagger bushes there. That's what we call them up north, or in Pittsburgh at least. Pricker bushes, if you guys, I don't know if they call them down there. But so as I got further in, there was a giant tree branch, and it was laying on the ground in front of me. And I'll have to send you the photo of this. I actually took a photo of it. You can see 2 dug-in marks on the back of it, like there were 2 claws digging in, and you can see 2 really hardened, like something really heavy knocked this tree branch on. And it wasn't a small branch either. It was probably about. It's probably about this big around. I'd say about 1.5 feet around. It was nothing that I could hang on and knock off the tree. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly where this thing was sighted coming out. And I just so happened to stumble on it. I actually got lost and found it on accident. So, but there's the evidence. At least to me, points that it definitely goes into a cave, and I think. Honestly, it left because of the music, I think, and it was also probably hungry because the time of the day, it was actually dusk. The sun was actually about to start going down. So, and also the kids that saw it at nighttime, the sun had just went down. So, and then I'm sorry, and then the lady that her and her son at night, that was a couple hours after, but I do believe that it stays in a cave for the most part for the most of the day.
Now, did they find the cats?
No, they never. Oh, they found bones of the one cat and this is the killer of it, is that there was a couple of them on top of the pump house, on top of it. And this thing is I call it a pump house because that's what it looked like to me, but it was a really small version of a barn. He actually had a quad in there.
Okay.
But to me, it looked like a pump house. But it was a lot higher off the ground than you would be able to just. I guess if you wanted to, you could throw bones on top of it. But for the most part, he found a couple of bones up there. But he didn't find those for a couple months after. After his cats were missing. So.
Because one of the things for anybody that's not sure where I'm going with this, because like when owls feed, they eat, and then they don't. How they remove the waste is they regurgitate a pellet. It comes back up as this mass, and they just basically just vomit it back up, and it's there. And so, when science class, like that's one of the things you do to find out what an owl eats is you dissect these owl pellets, and you can pull it apart, and you can see all these things. And that's why I was curious if they found a cat, and if it was in a form like a pellet form.
Yeah,
or if it looked like a hawk, just like where it tears it apart.
You're exactly right. That's actually a really great information, because I actually leave that part out on purpose, because people like you who know your stuff would actually be able to describe that to me. So you're 100% right. It was in a pellet form, and it was sitting on the edge of the pump house. You're absolutely right.
Wow. And so for like a cat, like I said, for most people, most owls, we're talking a rodent, is like the size. Most things are not eating a whole cat.
Yeah.
And so that's what, so yeah, that's definitely a good size, for the size of it. I mean, now, obviously, this is probably coming up because I hear a rumor that you're working on a book. There's a rumor right here. Is there going to be any photos, say, of these said pellets by any chance?
He actually, the witness has a couple. See, that's the thing is, the witness had a ton of photos, but he didn't have any photos of the actual creature itself, which kind of stinks. But he did have a picture of the pellet. He had a picture of a couple other pellets that were left. Matter of fact, his first sighting that I described to you, where he was leaving his house and something flew over his car, there was actually he went to go look after, because he pulled over to see what it was, and he said that there was something in a hairy mash off the side of the road, and he said that's where this thing was. And matter of fact, that's where he first described it having red eye shine. So he definitely had seen the same thing, I believe, before. And honestly, to go and get a job at a mushroom farm to prove your point is beyond. Beyond. I mean, that tells me that he's definitely seen something that's out of this world.
Yeah, at that point, you're Richard Dreyfuss, making the mashed potato, Devil's Tower, because you've seen something, like you're recreating. It's like I am going for this all that, because most people don't just like, I'm going to go become a mushroom farmer. That's not your normal career path.
Yeah, it's a dirty job. It's not for everybody. Especially with especially up there, they got, and that's another thing too. There's loud explosions up there. There's dynamite explosions constantly, because they're building more caves and stuff like that for I guess to further their the farm. But that's another thing, is the explosions that go off up there in this area. That's how this thing, I believe, has been scared out of its cave. To be honest with you, I think the dynamite explosions have scared this thing. That's why these people have seen this creature. To be honest, other than that, I think it would come out maybe a couple times and grab here and there. But other than that, I think for the most part, it's been scared out of its area.
Yeah. So in one of those, we just had, Joanne, she had posted the thing too. It just real quick. So like along of these ones, what so far that you've gathered would you say is probably the most concrete thing where you could point to this, that there is something to this, as opposed to just I think, because like Bigfoot, we find these things, obviously nobody's actually got a hold of a Bigfoot. Nobody's actually got a hold of the Owlman. So what are these things that you've found that you're like, this is definitely something to this, that it's not an owl?
For the most part, the first two sightings, they match second to none. I mean, they both describe the same exact thing, almost the same exact height. They're both playing music. Then also for the first one, you have the police report from the mushroom farm for the kids that stole the four-wheelers. It's all documented that they stole it to kill a giant bat. And I don't think you would tell a cop that just willy-nilly, hey, I took the four-wheelers to steal, just for fun. But anyways, I believe, the police report for one. And then also, too, the witness himself was not a dumb person. I mean, he, like I said before in the Mark show, he had a self-sustaining farm up there. He grew his own. He grew his own vegetables. He raised his own fish. I mean, this guy was not an idiot. He also turned his barn into a giant pavilion, basically with indoor. I mean, it was, and then he had also in his house he had a bunch of other things that were really wild. But either way, it led me to believe this guy wasn't just BSing. And also, too, the witnesses at the mushroom farm themselves. There was two other people that I didn't get to mention on Mark's show, but two other people that described the same exact thing. So I would say that for my proof, to be honest with you, that they definitely saw an oversized owl for sure.
So now, is there a place for people to I mean, especially since you're really going to in the Pennsylvania area, in that Ohio River Valley area, where is a good place to get a hold of you if somebody sees a sighting, has something like this, that they want to tell you? Is just contact you on Facebook, or do you have another site you'd like to send them to?
No, for right now, they can contact me on Facebook. I'm actually working on that right now. So for our site, actually. So but for right now, you can just message me on Facebook or email me ryaninvestigator@gmail.com.
Okay. Yeah, because that's definitely one of those, just, if you see something, just like send it, because like most of these things, like we've gone through with these investigations, it's like, people are like, well, I'm just afraid to say something. Well, the crazy part is you may actually have something that you think is insignificant. Like we were out there, with the party, the music was playing, and all of a sudden we saw something. Well, to you, that's not that's a pointless detail. But like Ryan, he's gonna be like, boom, music.
Yep.
You're gonna think, and that's where it's like encourage people. It's like tell somebody, because something that you think is insignificant could actually be that piece that somebody like yourself that's doing these investigations, is going to be able to, key on, and you're going to be able to find out more details about that.
Actually, here, I actually saved this sighting for your show because I got it about 4 days ago. Hold on here. Let me find it. And I just got it. This just came in. And this is from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. So, all right. So the witness describes owl-like creature. Owl-like creature. I wrote down the what was basically like the other sightings. He had music outside. He was fixing a car. It was a mechanic. This sighting happened about 4 months ago. He was fixing a car outside. He got up underneath it. He had the radio blaring. He got up and he looked in the sky and he saw this giant. He said he said it looked like a bird, but as it got closer, it got so close so quick that he realized, oh, this thing is not little. And sure enough, he describes exactly what the very first witness and the second witness described. No, it had, but the only difference, he said, it had a darker chest than the other two. The other two described it as a yellowish color on its chest. This guy here described a darkest gray color, but same description. Claws were really big, but this one here, it circled over him a couple times and took off. But that's the only sighting that he has. I asked if he had ever heard of this thing before. He said no. He also asked around for after I asked him, he asked around for me. He said no one got back to him about it. But yeah, that was about 4 days ago, and it was from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. So
that's similar to the Central Florida story. The lady said she was walking along her property. She spotted it. It was about 7 foot. She said at no time was she panicked, but also she said that it just kind of like scurried off back into the woods, and it wasn't a normal owl because she posted that she's seen the owls before, so it wasn't a normal owl. and then she was like, she went to go research online. So obviously she didn't know nothing about the creature, so she just didn't make it up. She seen the creature.
Exactly.
She was like, well, let me go look online. So
Yeah, and so that sighting you're talking about, the only thing that it really differs from the other ones is the height. She described it being over 7 foot, and these all are almost the same exact, within the same exact height frame. So but like you said, down south it's a different story though. That's the thing. It's a way different story down south. So
Yeah, and so that I'm just one of those things like the golden color. I was thinking about that where you described just a little bit ago. Were those sightings the golden color? Did they see that at night, or was that something like as the sun's going down and they're shining? And that's what I was wondering about if maybe the feathers are able to take on that coloring.
See, that's what I was thinking too, and that's when you asked if it was like a shapeshifter, that came into my head. Like, I wonder if that, but I have no proof of that. But you're right though, that it's dusk, almost every time this thing was seen, coming around, and that leads me to believe that it was out hunting. It was out hunting, trying to gather food for the night, you know what I mean, or something like that. So, yeah, but the one I just got 4 days ago, I actually am waiting to hear back of what time of the. I wanted the precise time of the day, but again though, that's I waited for your show to throw this out there. That it had music going, and this is the third one I have out of 4 that have music going. But the first 2 had piano, but I don't know. Either way, it was music playing, so that must be definitely curious about other sounds for sure.
And I was going to say that third one too, where you said they didn't have thing, but they were throwing a party.
Exactly, the party
so
just got.
Maybe they had a radio, maybe they had something on there that the same, stereo, something going to. Because I was wondering, because you talked about different tones, different sounds. And that's one of the things. I wonder if there is something specific about the music that's bringing it in, and it's associating that, almost like a dinner bell.
Exactly, like a certain frequency is hitting to call these in for sure.
Yeah, and that's well, Tom, welcome to like I said, everybody, thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And that's one of those. So for your sighting, so you've seen a lot of these in Pennsylvania. Have you started to expand out and see if other people have had these ones, or are you just currently just focused on the ones that you've got and you're just waiting for more and more people to bring that information to you?
No, I'm definitely branching out. I'm definitely trying to collect as many as I can. Right now, I have 5 total. My 5th sighting is actually in the state of Michigan, and I'm waiting to actually hear a little bit more about it. But that was about 3 weeks ago. So actually, as this story has gotten more popular for the last month, I've actually gotten 2 sightings. So that's actually good. I'm glad that it's getting out there.
Yeah.
It's definitely helping. I'm really, it's shows like yours and Mark's. It's really making this Owlman a big thing, and it should be, because honestly, people are definitely seeing something. Especially that lady down in Florida. I wanted to say real quick. After she saw this, that was her 2nd time seeing this creature. The first time she saw it, it did the same exact thing though. It was at the forest line. It came all the way almost up to her property, and then it scooted back, but she never saw it leave the ground. And honestly, a 7-foot tall owl, I don't know. I mean, the wingspan on it would have to be 28 feet. Not 28 feet, but at least 25, 26 feet. I mean, it's got to be pretty big.
And Laura is just talking again about the thing, and that's definitely possible, because just like you said, the sighting in Florida, the Seminole Nation was moved during the Trail of Tears from Florida area over, and so this one they brought that. So this is something that they would see. So this would actually make sense that you possibly could see something down in the Florida area, because obviously the Seminole Nation was down there.
Yep.
So this would be, and that's what they said. They refer to it as the. I hope I'm not mispronouncing, but I want to say it's Stikini, which they said is referred to as a witch. And so she brings up, like I said, so this is a possible thing where it could be tied into that shape shifting. This could be a humanoid type thing that is, has the flying humanoid.
Yeah.
Type thing, which would fit Owlman.
Exactly. So actually my 3rd sighting I talked about, I actually emailed her after Mark's show, and asked a little bit more information. I'm waiting for her to get back to me because I really want to know the end game there of that sighting. I only got basically that they just had a party, they were cleaning up, and then they saw this thing flying around and it took off. I have a feeling there's a little bit more there, but also that the color of this in itself really intrigues me, that it was different from these other four, other three. So
Yeah, so I'd be curious, just kind of Jaron post, because he was like, we're in Oklahoma, and I told him that it was one of these things. I'd be curious with the Seminole Nation down there, if they've had any of these sightings, like if this legend has continued down there with them since they have this. I'd be curious to see if that has continued.
Yeah, that would be something I'll definitely look into that actually, because the woman that Chris mentioned, I actually emailed her, so I'm actually gonna I'll email her again and see if I can get some more information out of her for it. But I know that there's a couple other sightings down there, Chris. I don't know if you heard of I think this is 2009, 2008, around there. But anyways, there was two sightings. Both people mentioned the same exact thing, and it was in Florida and in Georgia. The same exact owl, but both times it's 7 feet tall. So that's what I mean. Like, it's crazy that it's down south. Up north, it's it's the same, and then you get these southern ones and they're almost the same exact thing. It's crazy. So
yeah, the thing to be curious is, like, as you're going through these things, to find out if this is either the same, where it's almost like a migratory type thing that during the colder month it moves, or if this is just one of those things you have that different subspecies where one is up north, and then you have kind of Sasquatch, skunk ape, you have these type of things where you have them in different areas and they have just that subtle difference.
yeah, you're exactly right. And like I said, it's not too far from Point Pleasant, where people saw the Mothman, right? So that's another thing.
Look at that synchronicity. Tom just asked that question, about the Mothman, confused with Mothman. And I'm like, and right as you're saying it, you're talking about Point Pleasant. I'm like, yeah, I go talk about synchronicity there.
The only thing is the Point Pleasant happened in '66. The Mothman sightings in England happened in '76. 76,
66.
Yeah, 10 years apart. But they are way different, though. The Owlman in England has ears, darker skin. It's also had a golden color to it. It's seen several times in a church and a cemetery, as where the Mothman was seen near a dynamite factory, a bridge. But it's been seen other places as well. But to answer your question about, I think you had mentioned something about the winter. Did you say something about the winter? Anything like that? Because I have one.
Saying, like, the migratory thing. Like, if it was something like during the colder things, they start to move south, or if it's something like you have the cold weather Owlman and you have the warmer climate, where the different subsets.
Yeah. So after my first initial interview with the witness, he actually called me back in the wintertime to tell me about about the pellet and stuff like that. But I asked if anything out of the ordinary had happened then, but he said no. But that was the only witness that answered me back about the other time of the year. So, but I think you're kind of right about that.
But what I was also thinking is that, in different states, depending on the climate, even the deers are a slightly different color. So maybe it's the exact same creature. It's just to their atmosphere, to their climate, their fur or their feathers look a different color because of the climate and the weather.
Yeah, you might be right there. Absolutely, you could definitely be right. For the most part, up north was my third sighting, and that's actually a lot colder than it would be down here. So you might be actually right about that. So the only thing, I think the real scary thing about this is the eye shine, because I couldn't imagine what it would be like to see red eyes like that coming at you at night. For one that big, and also too the claws, like you said, the talons on these things are just they look like they're not for playtime. So definitely.
Yeah, and I was curious as we were thinking about this, and I was just in the music side, especially in the Pennsylvania area, would be like if there's any music fests. I mean, I know in the last couple of years it's really died down, but I'd be curious if like any time that goes out there, somebody has like a music festival or something, if there's people that report seeing something up in the sky.
That's you actually nailed it. My next investigation is going to be up there whenever they have their fair this year. So that was my next thing. You nailed it. It was a music festival because the first witness, his garage, no joke, he turned his whole property into a music fair. No, I'm not kidding. Like
Nice.
his garage, that's what he does. That's what he did. That's what he did to his garage. He turned it into a giant platform. He's got a stage in there. It's the doors on rollers. Like it's insane. It was beautiful. He did a really good job what he did with this. But yeah, he turns his whole property into this. So but he said that was the only time that he saw this creature though. So I think it had to do a lot with honestly it was coming out the feed, and I think that the music pulled it over, to be honest with you. So I mean that's in my opinion. So
I'm curious, like you said earlier, is it the vibration or is it the sound, or he's just curious of what is the sound, or does it bother him, or what is the theory behind the music? What really attracts to the music?
That's what I'm trying to find out as well. It reminds me of a dog when you blow a whistle and he perks his ears up and looks at you like this. It kind of reminds me of that's what these humanoids are doing. They're coming over to be like, what is this? What am I hearing right now? Is that Leonard Skinner? Like, but no, I know he's not saying that, but still, he would say who? No, no, but
yeah.
Zing. No, but it's got to be frequency. I really believe it's frequencies.
And yeah, that was one of the, we just keep going with that type thing too, is with the frequencies. And because that's one of the things I'm really curious about. It's like if it's associating the sound of music with a gathering, which means food. Yep. Just like how bears in campgrounds, they eventually associate this thing as not a threat, but as the grocery store's open. There's people here, I can go eat. And so I'm wondering if that thing it's flying around, boom, here's the music. Okay, that means there's something out there. That means people are going to be going around. There's going to be something out there that I could possibly, swoop down, snag, and then take off. And so.
Yeah, and honestly, when I put this all together, a lot of these sightings make sense to me. Where the kids saw it flying out of the cave, I correlate that back to dynamite exploding, so it scared it out of the cave, And then dusk is coming; it's looking for food, and then it hears this music. And just like in a second sighting, it was getting towards dusk. They had a piano going, the window was open. It came over and checked it out. Like I believe that these similarities definitely have something to do with this actual creature itself. I really do. And also, too, the lady down in Florida, her first sighting, there was actually a marching band playing about a half hour before she saw this creature.
Oh, wow. I didn't hear that.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, we could say that's way different music, to be honest with you. And I have no idea what the guy in Lancaster was listening to. I'm still waiting to get an answer back on that. So,
you said a marching band. It could have been the drums. It could have been something along those lines. If he was listening to rock.
You're absolutely right. You're right. I honestly believe that's the first one I thought it was obviously a drum sound, and then obviously a guitar, or maybe with someone that could sing real well. But I mean, I would say it's the instruments for sure.
Back to the Indian tribe, we were talking about the Indian. Craig mentioned
the Seminoles.
The Seminoles. The drums was a big part of their ceremonies, so maybe it's the drum frequency that really captures his attention.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. It does. Absolutely. Yeah. I'd have to agree with that.
Yeah, a couple of people was like, music seems to be a common theme, and I'm like, yeah, it sounds like you've already got that down as one of your main things, especially if you're planning a investigation around a music fest. And so, just set up around the barn. That seems to be the other key part. Is just find a structure and hang out there.
Yeah, and that's another thing too about these sightings is that none of them have these creatures going near a silo or a barn. But the odd thing is that there's been a barn on the 3 main sightings, but the barn has no place to do with the actual Owlman itself. Because it went back to the went back into the actual forest. So
Yeah. So we've kind of. I want you to plug a little bit of the other stuff you do because you show that. So now you're also into UFO and the paranormal investigation.
yeah, pretty big into UFO as well.
So kind of a little segue here for this one too is, so with any of these Owlman sightings, has there been anything that would be considered UFO activity, other paranormal activity that somebody would see? Like I'd see the Owlman, I saw a large flying creature, but then I also saw something up in the sky, like some sighting.
I got 2 sightings that correlate that actually have a lot to do with that. But both sightings, I'd say they're about 420 miles apart from each other, and they have basically it's a black humanoid. It has wings. It never left the ground, the lady said, but it had real big black wings. The other lady said also the same thing, but this one, she said it did leave the ground. But here's the thing. Both of these were seen with blue orbs, same color orbs. They both described the same exact color orbs in both areas. And then also after that, they were both trying to get to their dogs. The one guy was raising hound dogs. The other 2 had a German Shepherd. And matter of fact, the sad thing is one of these German Shepherds actually went missing. And they never saw it again. Yeah. So, and this was after this thing, basically tried to rip down the fence where the hound dogs were. So, but it never actually got to the dogs itself. So, but yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because both had something to do with these blue orbs flying around the property, and they both had something to do with the same exact creature. Now, if I saw that, I'd probably cramp my pants and run. But I mean,
yeah, I agree. Because when you think about that too, because you always hear these people like, "No, I'd go closer." I'm like, man, I would love to say that I would be brave enough if I saw a 7-foot tall, red-eyed, humanoid creature out there in the woods in some orbs, and I'd be like, I got to get a closer look. I mean, I would love to say I would be that brave. I can't, with good conscience, say that I would run to it. I'd probably be the one backing up.
See, the orbs I'm cool with. I sent you photos of me actually touching. Did I send you the photos of me touching them?
I think you did. I think you sent me. It almost looked like ring footage.
Yeah.
I know you sent that to me. Yeah.
Yeah. But I have photos. I'll have to send you guys. They're actually in my hand. They actually come right to my hand.
Yeah. No, I don't think you sent me that picture.
I'll have to send you. I'll send you them. But this is the crazy part is, other than that night, I can never see these. I can only see them in IR. Except for that night, that's the only time these things showed up in front of my face like that, and I was able to touch them. But other than that, They just went IR and disappeared and stuff like that. Yeah, I'll have to send you guys the photos so you can post them. But yeah, there's 2 humanoid sightings. They're the only 2 I have that would put a humanoid together with a UFO, and I take orbs as UFOs. I mean, in some sort, or they're entities in some different way.
Yeah, because I think there's that common thing that they're not, because one of those things, there's no concrete proof yet. So, but there's that speculation of the connection between them, because you see, there seems to be something up in the sky. There seems to be orbs. They seem to have that connection, but
Exactly.
Unfortunately, there's nothing concrete. I mean, some people have seen them where they've dropped out of a craft, and they've gone floating around, and so we can through just that extrapolate that, okay, these are connected.
Exactly, like Stan Gordon did back in the late 60s, early 70s around here. I mean, tons of UFO and Bigfoot. Matter of fact, there's the wave that went through here. And matter of fact, this is a really good an account. I call them accounts. I don't like to call them stories. I call them accounts for respect. I don't know. Anyway, so basically, they had to go up to a farm, and they had seen a Bigfoot and a UFO, a couple orbs up there. And long story short, they saw a huge Bigfoot up there as well. So they tried to, I guess, shoot it, and they missed it. Obviously, it disappeared, but it got inside. I'm pretty sure it got inside the UFO and left with it. So, I mean, they definitely are. There definitely are accounts out there of them with each other for sure. You know, like especially Bigfoot. There's a lot of those. So,
I can't remember who I heard that theory from. That was their theory, is that UFO, that Bigfoot were kind of like from Star Wars. They were the Wookiees. You know, they're showing up in a ship, you know, and they're coming off and they're doing their thing. It's just, but that was like, that's why we can't find them, is because they're actually on, you know, the craft and they fly away. That's why there's, you know, there's never a body here. It's because the other Wookiees come and grab their partner and pull them onto the ship and they take off. It's like, but
it's funny. There's actually several accounts of, you know, Bigfoot's actually turning into orbs or carrying orbs or being escorted by another entity. So, I mean, in my opinion, I believe that they are. I think that they do turn into orbs. You get a really credible account. You guys probably know what I'm talking about, where the this old woman hears something outside in her trash cans, and she turns on a porch light and sees a Bigfoot out there. So she opens up the door with her shotgun, pulls the trigger immediately, and it scares the Bigfoot. And as she pulls the trigger, there's a bright flash. And this thing turned into a bunch of little, I guess she looked like fireflies again. But her son actually heard the shot go off, so he ran down the road to see what happened. And he said all of a sudden, all these red eyes started lighting up in the woods. Wow. And he said whatever it was huge. So I definitely do think that they turn into these light beings if they want, honestly. And I think that's why we can't find them as well.
Yeah, I wonder, because there's seems to be, you know, camps are kind of split. You know, is it interdimensional? Is it, you know, you go through this whole thing, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I just know that whether you want to believe it or not, I tend to go from the side of, you know, especially when you're going back to Native American, you know, records and stuff. This is something. They didn't have this. This wasn't some member of the tribe that decided to be their version of a, you know, Stan Lee and start coming up with their own comic book character, the Owlman.
Exactly.
They saw something. They saw the Bigfoot. I mean, there's accounts. I mean, I think it was I want to say it was Davy Crockett that had the encounter with a Bigfoot.
Yep.
You know, it even recorded. They said these things are in journals. These things are there. Now, do we think? Yeah, so one of those things, I mean, I feel like when you have these records, there's got to be something to this. There can't be just, you know, throughout history, people making the same mistake.
Yeah. And you know what else really ties it together for me is that, with all honesty, there's really only two books written about the Owlman, and one was written in 1986. The other one was written in 1997. And they were both from London, I believe.
And now, is there going to be another one written in 22 or 23?
Probably 23.
Just say there might be a third book in 23, maybe.
If I get one more, I'm gonna get on it. So,
Yeah, so I've got that. I don't know if you noticed on the ticker, I've had it down there. It's like, if you've seen something, contact you. So I'm just making sure that everybody, yeah, it's got that. So, but that was one. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see you get these things together and start piecing this through, you know, through the research side, you know, that this is what we found, compilation of these stories, because the more of this information that gets out there, the more, especially like Google searches, we'll get past just seeing a DC Comics. Yeah. And you won't have to get page 2, 3 before you start actually getting a result.
Exactly. Yeah. Hopefully, hopefully in the next year here, you'll type it in and I'll pop up. You see my beautiful mug. So,
yeah. And with that, and, you know, King here, he made that point too, is he brought that up, the orbs. I have heard that before, that this is a advanced technology version of a drone.
Yep. Yeah.
And so you could have Bigfoot, like you said, the same thing. If these are from another, you know, a highly intelligent species that is from somewhere else, who's to say that that's not something that's a normal thing to them?
Exactly. And actually, I'll give you guys something. If you guys want, you guys can check out my TikTok. My name on there is Fosbo, Fozzbo. I actually post what I get from my security camera. It's wild stuff. It's crazy. I've sent you a couple gifts on it. I'll send you a couple more. But if you guys want to check out some pretty wild stuff, that's basically strictly UFO and orb stuff. But
Yeah,
if
if we
you're
haven't, I'll after the show I'll follow you.
oh,
Or
yeah,
TikTok,
good to
we
go.
can go. Yeah, if
Awesome.
we haven't
Yeah.
done it yet, I'll do that.
Okay. Yeah,
And
sounds
that's
good. Yeah,
yeah,
if anybody has any sightings, let me know for sure.
yeah,
Definitely.
please, yeah, to reach out to him, Ryan Investigator at gmail.com is if you've had any of these sightings, especially it seems to be centered around the Ohio River Valley area. Is where they
Yeah.
seem to be really, really big is right now. Obviously we've been talking about it too, but anybody in Florida,
Yep.
if you've seen something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to get more from Florida as well. Definitely down south for sure, and out west. Actually wherever in the world, to be honest with you. So, the more the merrier. So, and I get a ton of emails. So, if you send it, I'll definitely get to it though eventually. So.
Yeah,
I just want
that
to
was
see
one of
for
the things too.
myself.
Especially we've got a few people in the Oklahoma area. So if you guys know of anybody that's part of the Seminole Nation,
Yeah.
reach out to them. Find out if they've got something where, I mean, if it's anything like the other tribes, they don't really like talking about the skinwalkers. That's not something that they really,
Yep.
open because they don't want to turn their, have the attention brought on them. So
Exactly.
I have a feeling that Stikini is probably a lot like that. They don't want it focusing on them. But
yeah, I wouldn't want it either. I would.
Yeah, but if anybody down there, like, Jaron, like I said, the same thing. If you know of anybody that's got these, like, reach out to them, let them know, because the more information we can get, the better, and the more we can start filling in some pieces.
Yep. And also too, I take a lot of abduction accounts. So don't be afraid to send them my way. You won't be judged for them. You're just going to get more questions asked about it, to be honest with you. So if you have any UFO sightings, abduction accounts, anything like that, any sightings of cryptozoology, so yeah, send them my way for sure.
Yeah, no, that'll be awesome. So let's see. Yeah, you're on. Let's see if I can get. I had the list here. Let me bring it back up here. Once again, like you said, Fosbo, Fozzbo on TikTok, if you want to follow that. You can also reach out to Twitter, same thing, Fosbo.
Yep.
I've got my homework ahead of me. I got to do a bunch of following here once we're done with the show. I saw a few things I haven't done yet. You've got the same thing. You've got Fosbo on Instagram, as well as the Fozzlebeak.
Yeah.
So you like I said, you've got a lot of time on your hands for social media.
I'm using the ones that are just strictly Fosbo though. So
if anybody's interested in a social media job, he may be in the future needing a social media manager.
That's true. And then yeah, for sure.
But yeah, you've got YouTube channels galore. It's unfortunately, like I said, they don't have the so. I mean, it's going to be hard to describe people.
Yeah, I'm actually working on one right now. Is actually I do obscure alien abduction accounts that have a ton of what's it called, evidence to them, but people don't really know too much about them. That's actually a new thing I'm working on for YouTube. So when I get my third video up, I'll send you the link for that.
Oh, Jaron, that's awesome. I don't know if you see that. He said he can get in touch with his elders.
Oh, really?
And so, the horse chiefs, which is basically, the pony royalty.
Oh, that's awesome.
So yeah, that would be awesome if you could get that information, and see if there's any information that they'd be willing to, give firsthand accounts for, because that would be fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because, I mean, we just talked about that oral tradition. Some of these, that's a big thing where these stories have been handed down, from the beginning, and so. Once again, if they had no reason to make something up back in the 1600s. It's like,
exactly.
Yeah. Who's going to, nobody's.
They didn't know how to chase clout back then. They wasn't chasing clout.
Yeah. You're right.
You see that National Enquirer cave? Oh my God. You see that stuff, that rag they just put on the wall there? God, who believes in the four-headed beast monster? There wasn't anything like that. I go, they actually, it's like if they took the time to remember the story, to do these things, they saw something. There was something that caused them to do this.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But that's one of those. That's one of those things. It's just, it's a lot of these traditions. These are not, some of these ones are stories that you've got to know somebody. You got to be friends with them, for them to entrust these stories too. So that's.
And he just said it too. He said he'll try, but it won't come off that easy. And you're absolutely right. I know a couple of Native Americans, and you're right. It's hard to get stories out of them that they want they feel comfortable talking about. So that's their own business. So, but if they're willing to share, I'm all ears. So
awesome. Well, once again, everybody, like I said, go to ryaninvestigator at gmail.com. Write to him. If you've seen anything, keep your eyes up on the sky. Pay attention. Like I said, if you see something, just mention it. I mean, it may seem simple and nothing, but it could be a piece that he's been looking for to solve part of that puzzle. And so, but we'll go through there. I'll share them. You liked if you have anything, post it. And like I said, and we'll put it up on our page for you. So like I said, we'll share that stuff, and reach out to Tom and Carlito. There's North Carolina, Cryptid and Paranormal Park. Go there. They've got, you could reach out to them, because they're big on cryptid research as well.
Yep.
And so check out with them. And then, here's the last one right here. Our clan fought the owl shift shapers. And so I go, that could be part of the thing too, where this is like a shape shifting, cryptid that can actually do it. So, and that's, with the twist of her wrist would lead to the witch's side too, like the Stikini.
That's it. Exactly. Just popped in my head.
Yep. Yeah. It's she came back right as we were leaving. I know we tend to do that. I'm sorry. that seems to be a trick of ours. But no, everybody check out Ryan. Like I said, you can pretty much type in the words Fosbury, and you're going to probably find a Ryan thing on social media. So
it's gonna be me.
Yeah. So. Yeah, just type in Fosbo in your favorite social media thing, and you're probably going to discover Ryan, because I had to go down here. There's not too many he does not have listed here. So, all right. Well, Ryan, I really appreciate you coming on the show, man.
Absolutely. I'm glad you guys could have me. I had a good time. You guys are great hosts, and I enjoyed the show to begin with. So, thank you.
Yeah, and definitely keep us in the loop of the book that may or may not be coming out, because we would love, one, an autographed copy would be awesome for us. We would love that, and two, we would love to bring you back on to talk about that as well. And then
inside photo is going to look like this.
That's right. Yeah, it's yep, that'll work. We will take it. So all right, thanks, sir. Well, thanks, Ed. Have a great night.
Hey, you too, guys. Thanks.
All right. And then everybody, this episode was brought to you by threebeardspodcast.com. We are still looking for a sponsor, so hey, if you know anybody that's just got money burning in their pocket and they'd like to throw 40 or so bucks our way, we would not turn them away. We would love it. But if you don't, you could also get that guy that has a beard. Pick up some beard oil. That supports us as well.
Valentine's Day is coming up.
Yeah, go to Outer Realms Bathworks. Tanya Medea. She has an Etsy shop currently set up right now, but you could purchase this, and she handcrafts this beard oil and really like it. So that's a way. Or you can go to our website, which is threebeardspodcast.com. Check out our merchandise right there. Support us that way. Or you can go to redbubble.com, and that will also, help us out by going to Three Beards Podcast and purchasing that there. We also are trying to get some Patreons, so that can help us as well. Check us out on all the social media sites. We're not as prolific as Ryan. We don't have as many, but we do have TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. Yeah, so check us out there. We are rebroadcast every night on ERRT Radio at 11 p.m. Wednesday, courtesy of Ron. There, thank him. We follow Tanya and Joey Medea into the Outer Realms every Wednesday night. So check that out. Everybody, once again, just, appreciate you tuning in the show. All the comments, keep those comments coming. That's a lot of fun being able to talk with everybody and chat during the show as well. So thanks everybody for watching. Really appreciate it. Everybody have a great night. We will see you on the next one. Good night.